Inside a workshop, a truck tire was placed on a stand for servicing. Everything appeared normal and under control. A worker approached and reached out to check the tire, but in that moment, the pressure inside suddenly gave way, causing the tire to explode with force. The worker was caught off guard by the sudden release of energy. This incident highlights the hidden risks of large tires. Overinflation, hidden defects, or improper mounting can all lead to dangerous blowouts. That's why safety cages, pressure gauges, and protective barriers should always be used during inflation and testing. Workers should avoid standing directly in front of or over a tire until it has been fully checked and stabilized. At a construction site, one worker was operating an excavator, while another stood on the outside of the driver's cabin. At first, everything seemed stable, but as the ground shifted beneath the heavy machine, the excavator tipped to one side. Unfortunately, it leaned in the very direction where the second worker was standing, and the side of the machine made contact with both men. This moment showed how quickly balance and stability can change when heavy equipment is used improperly or on uneven surfaces. This incident highlights why no worker should ever ride or stand outside of a machine's cab. Only trained operators should be inside, and all others must remain at a safe distance. Before moving, operators should check the ground conditions to avoid tipping hazards, especially on slopes or soft soil. Clear safety zones, strict rules against extra riders, and regular operator training can prevent these kinds of accidents. With proper procedures and awareness, excavators can remain valuable tools instead of potential risks. At a maintenance area, a worker was standing on top of an oil tanker, finishing the job of washing and cleaning the inside of the tank. As the rod extended upward, it made contact with the live wires. The worker received an electric shock and lost balance, falling from the top of the tanker. This incident shows how quickly routine maintenance can turn hazardous when workers don't account for their surroundings. Before starting any task on top of vehicles or tankers, workers should identify nearby power lines and ensure safe clearance distances are maintained. A man attempted to stop an automatic gate by placing his hand against it. Instead of stopping smoothly, the gate trapped his hand as it closed. What seemed like a small action quickly turned into a dangerous situation. This incident reminds us never to block or force automatic gates. Using the proper sensors, push buttons, or emergency controls is always safer. Regular maintenance and awareness can prevent accidents and keep automatic systems safe for everyone. On the top floor of a multi-story building under construction, a worker was carrying out his daily task, positioning and securing wooden beams that would form part of the structure. Everything appeared routine, and the work seemed to be progressing without issue. But as he stood on one of the beams to adjust another, the support beneath him shifted. The beam, not yet fully secured, gave way. In an instant, the worker lost balance and fell from the elevated height. This situation illustrates how quickly things can change on a construction site. A task that looks simple, balancing while placing a support beam, can become extremely dangerous when materials are not fastened correctly or when protective safety systems are not in place. Incidents like this highlight the need for strict fall prevention measures. Every elevated work area should be equipped with guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems. Beams and temporary supports must always be double-checked before workers rely on them for balance. At a station platform, a railway worker was speaking with a colleague near the tracks. Everything seemed routine, but overhead an electrical line had become loose. Suddenly, the worker made contact with the live cable, receiving an electric shock that caused him to collapse. The incident shows how unpredictable hazards can appear in places that feel familiar and safe. This case highlights why regular inspection of overhead power lines and electrical systems is critical in railway environments. Workers should always maintain safe distance from live equipment, and safety teams must immediately report and secure any loose cables. While unloading massive glass sheets from a truck, one of the stacks became unstable. In seconds, the sheets tipped and fell onto a nearby worker. What seemed like a routine unloading task quickly turned into a dangerous situation. This incident reminds us that heavy glass must always be secured with proper restraints, lifting equipment, and team coordination. Workers should never stand in the direct fall zone while unloading. With careful planning and safe positioning, accidents like this can be prevented. Inside a repair workshop, a worker was inflating a tire. Everything appeared normal as he connected the air hose and began filling it. Standing directly over the tire, his face was positioned right above the rim while pressure slowly increased. For a while, nothing seemed unusual. But as the pressure climbed beyond a safe level, the tire suddenly failed. The burst forcefully struck upward. This incident shows how quickly a common task can become hazardous when pressure is underestimated. This case highlights the importance of always using proper procedures when inflating tires. Workers should never lean directly over a tire while filling it with air. Instead, they should stand to the side, at a safe distance, and use a tire inflation cage whenever possible. Regularly checking for defects in the tire and monitoring air pressure with the correct gauge can prevent overinflation. At a busy work site, the worker was unloading material from his motorcycle near an area where a hydraulic grabber claw was transferring loads into a waiting truck. The operator of the machine was focused on the task. The claw unexpectedly came down and made contact with him while grabbing material. The operator, unaware of the worker's presence in the danger zone, continued the motion before realizing what had happened. This situation demonstrates how even skilled operators can't always see people nearby when heavy machinery is in motion. A small misstep in positioning can put workers in the path of equipment designed to handle tons of weight. This incident highlights why strict exclusion zones around heavy machinery are essential. Workers should never enter the operating range of a hydraulic claw, crane, or excavator without clear communication and confirmation from the operator. Spotters, warning signals, and barriers can prevent accidental entry into these danger zones. Equally important, operators must perform a 360-degree safety check before moving equipment. Late one evening, a woman approached the entrance of a building. Finding the door locked, she looked for another way inside. Instead of waiting or seeking assistance, she picked up a stone from the street and struck the small glass panel of the door. The glass cracked and left a narrow opening. She reached through the opening, fumbling in an attempt to unlock the door from the inside. Minutes passed with no success. Frustrated, she abandoned her efforts and forcefully kicked the door. In doing so, she accidentally cut her ankle on one of the sharp edges left behind from the broken glass. The woman appeared to be under the influence and was left in a vulnerable and unsafe condition. This incident highlights why breaking glass to gain entry is never a safe solution. Shattered panels leave behind sharp, unstable edges that can cause serious harm with even the slightest contact. In addition, attempting to force entry into a building without proper authorization not only creates a safety hazard, but also legal consequences. The safer course of action in situations like this is simple. Seek proper help. Contact a locksmith, a building manager, or emergency services if it's truly urgent. For businesses and property owners, reinforced safety glass and protective barriers can also reduce risks when people attempt unsafe entry. The key lesson here is that unsafe improvisation rarely solves the problem. Instead, it creates new risks. Staying patient, choosing safe alternatives, and avoiding reckless actions ensures that a moment of frustration doesn't turn into a medical emergency.